When you're met with challenges or conflicts with other people, or even failures, do you tend to feel embarrassment, shame, frustration because you're involved in such situations? Today, in this video, I'm going to suggest a different interpretation for when you meet challenges, are in conflicts with other people, or experience a failure. Hi, I'm Beth Strathman. Welcome back to my channel. So what I notice in my career is that at one point I felt like, I was working for a couple of companies in a row where I felt like the position I was in wasn't respected. I also felt like the organizations themselves, which were mostly male-dominated organizations, they were not very, there's a lot of male-female stuff, and I felt like they thought that I as a person and my role was secondary to theirs because I was a female, and they saw my role, which at the time was an HR director, as this role that women took in organizations. Yeah, I'm not going to get into details, but it was crazy. And also, I felt like my directness was becoming a liability for me. It wasn't working for me, where it had worked for me in the past in other positions that I'd held. So I was really in this place of, oh my gosh, I don't understand what is going on here, right? What have I done wrong? All this stuff didn't used to happen to me. So over time, I gravitated toward a job in human resources and now as a coach, where I work with managers and executives in corporations where they get to a point in their careers where what used to work for them doesn't work for them anymore. And I'm going to get to my point about challenges, conflicts, and failures in just a minute here. But it seems that there's this idea that in the first half of life, you conquer yourself. You go out, you learn how to navigate the world, how to navigate the workplace, and you create some kind of success for yourself. And then sometime in the second half of life, which usually starts to occur in your 40s, something changes. And now the second half of life is about conquering yourself. And I see this change not only in my experience in the workplace, but also in the experiences of my clients. So what I'd like to suggest when you run into these situations where what used to work for you doesn't work for you anymore, where you're experiencing challenges in that way and others, when you might be running into people that you tend to have more conflicts with, or where you experience a failure that was just like, I've never experienced a failure like this before. That what's really happening is, and this is the interpretation I'd like to suggest, instead of taking it personally, instead of getting frustrated about it, well, you can be frustrated about it, but instead of taking it to heart in that way, instead of blaming other people, look at it as this opportunity to learn something about yourself and to grow from it. Because like me, and I see this in my clients, these kind of situations will keep happening to you until you figure out how you need to show up differently. It's not because you're defective. It's not because the other person's defective, although all of us have our own issues that we need to work on in life. But it's because, sure as shooting, if you don't change an aspect of yourself that might be relevant, these kind of situations, these challenges, conflicts, and perhaps failures are going to keep showing up until you get it. So it's best to take a step back and go, okay, wait a minute, this could be a one-off, but how did I contribute to this situation? What could I have done differently? How am I showing up that's mixing with everything else that's going on to cause this kind of a challenge or conflict or failure. So here are 4 things you can do when this happens to you to kind of enter into these times in your life in a way that will help you to do that, to look at them as opportunities to learn something about yourself and become a better person. So first, look for repetition or patterns in either the people or the types of situations that are showing up. I'm just thinking like in people's personal lives, a lot of times we might date the same kind of person that's not good for us. We do it over and over again, not learning our lesson the first time. Or in my case, I tended to work for the same kind of organizations over and over again, where there was a corporate culture that I didn't do very well in, where it was more, again, like I said before, male dominated, and they didn't have an appreciation not only for women generally, and that's a very broad statement, but they tended to see some jobs as women's work and other jobs as not women's work, men's work. Okay, so look for repetition and patterns. Again, because of the same kind of people and situations keep showing up for you, that's sort of like a knock on the door every time to say, hey, pay attention to this. How are you participating in this? What can you do differently? Second, work through the situation with intention and awareness. Again, that intention of, I'm going to learn something from this, and an awareness of really on yourself, how you're showing up and are contributing to whatever the dynamic is that's going on. Third, keep in mind that it's almost as if that situation or those types of people who keep showing up repeatedly for you and that frustrate you in some way or cause conflict, that's almost like, it feels like it's almost designed specifically for what you need to have this realization that's going to help you grow into a better person. I see this in my clients all the time, and I've seen it in myself, that there were situations that showed up repeatedly that really were almost designed for me, because one thing that I've needed to work on throughout my adult life is having patience and not thinking that my way is always the best way. I know, hard to believe that I would think that, but I have in the past. So with my clients, I see the same thing, that whatever situation is showing up for them repeatedly, or the kinds of people that they're dealing with repeatedly, that those are exactly the kinds of situations or people that are going to help them figure out how they need to be differently. It's going to go right to a particular quality that they have that they really need to look at. And finally, keep in mind that these situations and people that show up that are frustrating, challenging, or that are part of something you perceive as a failure, is there as part of your evolution into a more authentic version of yourself. There's a broader purpose going on underneath. So challenges, conflicts, and failures, don't see them as a personal criticism of yourself or as something that says you're defective, or don't feel like a victim, or that you just have bad luck. I mean, those are the first places that your head goes to. Instead, keep in mind that they are there for your evolution, and they're probably an indication that you're missing the bigger picture. You're probably too focused on yourself. So you're missing the bigger picture, and you're missing the larger trajectory that these kinds of events and people are helping you to move along towards as you go throughout not only your career, but your life. So reframe, those conflicts, challenges, and failures as learning opportunities and a way for you to become a better, more authentic version of yourself.